Patch 13.18 is upon us with some nerfs, some buffs, and other changes too. Starting with nerfs, we have J4, who once again has become silly strong. His passive will now deal 6% of the target's current health rather than 8%. This is a pretty large nerf which will hurt both his clear speed and his damage against champions. Next we have Kayn, whose passive in red form will now heal 25% damage. In addition, his ultimate in blue form will now scale less well with bonus AD. Following this we have Rel, whose E will now grant bonus movement speed both when looking away from enemies and moving towards enemies. Next we have Tryndamere, who will be getting 7 less health and 2 less AD with each level. And the final nerf goes to Xayah, who is losing 30 base health, but instead gaining an additional 5 health per level. In addition, her E's cooldown will now be longer in the early game, but the same when it's fully leveled. Moving on to buffs, we start with Gwen, who will be gaining an additional 6 health per level. And her passive's damage to monsters is being massively increased, which will make her clear speed significantly better for when she jungles. Following this, we have Irelia, whose ultimate will have a 15-second shorter cooldown at all ranks. Next, we have Kassadin, who was accidentally buffed in patch 13.15, but they have now confirmed they're going to keep his ultimate's additional AP scaling. Following this, we have Kenneth, whose E's energy cost will now be a flat 80 at all ranks, and his ultimate will be available 20 seconds faster each time it's leveled, making sure he'll constantly have it up for every late game teamfight. The next buff goes to Senna, whose passive will no longer reduce the damage of her critical strikes, which will make critical strike items far more appealing for her again. In addition, enemies hit by her W's AoE snare will now be applied a stack of mist from her passive. And the final buff goes to Thresh, where his W will now grant an additional 2 shielding per soul gathered rather than 1.5. This will make his shield far more clutch at all stages in the game. And the final change is an adjustment to Bard, who will now be able to have 10 chime stacks at a time. And the duration of this is going to go from 7 seconds all the way up to 20. In addition, his W will now work on an ammo system where he can store up to 2 at a time. However, the time taken to generate each stack will now be going up to 18 seconds from 14. However, a solid quality of life change for him is the time it takes for a shine to fully charge will now only be 5 seconds, which is a massive change from the usual 10 seconds these take to fully charge. However, to counteract this nice change, the bonus movement speed each shrine is going to grant is now going to be decreased. Where there are some clear ups and downs to these changes, it seems overall like a great quality of life change. In addition to all these champion changes, we also have some changes to items. Starting with Crown of the Shattered Queen, it will now grant an additional 15 AP. But the largest change is instead of reducing 75% of damage taken for 1.5 seconds, it will now reduce 40% of damage taken for 2.5 seconds. This essentially makes the item lower risk but lower reward. However, in addition to this, the crown will no longer provide AP while the shield holds. We also have a small change to Spear of Shojin, where it's getting nerfed down to 55 AD. Shiv will be granted 5 additional AD, however, its electro-shock damage to minions will now be going down to a flat 200. And finally, Storm Razor will grant 5 additional AD. In this patch, we're also going to see the new champion released called Briar. She will be coming out on Wednesday the 13th of September, or basically tomorrow if you're hearing this video today, and of course I'll have a completely separate video going over how to play her. Other than this, a ton of champions will be having their ability icons updated. The Mythic shop is rotating in skins for Echo, Lucian, Teemo, Diana, Kog'Maw, Swain and Talia, and we have a new collection of skins called Street Demons, which will be Briar's first skin, but also Nico, Dr. Mundo, Zyra, Brand, Rengar and Talia will all get skins for this line.